The air that night didn't just hum, it buzzed with the kind of energy you only feel once in a decade. A rooftop, high above downtown Chicago, lights strung overhead, like stars tangled in wire champagne towers stacked so high they sparkled with every glint of the skyline. The lake shimmered in the distance. Music drifted through the warm spring air, and everyone was laughing, everyone except me. I had spent 3 months planning this. It was my idea, my money, my time. I'd combed through venues, tasted cake samples until I was sick of frosting, argued with a florist in Singapore to get the exact orchids she'd once pointed at in a magazine. "These are my dream flowers," she'd said with that wide-eyed smile of hers. So I got them. I got it all. 5-tier cake chocolate and vanilla swirl. Her favorite. Imported champagne. Custom light installation. A dress I picked out with her in January, hidden until tonight. She looked radiant. I'll give her that. Emily had this way of stealing the room without trying. She wore confidence, like perfume. It lingered after she passed. Tonight, she was glowing. Twirling between guests, sipping smiling, clinking glasses like a social queen. And me, I stood near the edge of the dance floor, smiling like a man who believed he'd done something right, like a fool. Then the DJ dimmed the music. Someone tapped the mic, and she stepped up. I remember the hush. People turned curious. I expected her to say something sweet. Maybe just a thank you. Nothing big. A nod even. Something to say, "Hey, my husband pulled this off. I wasn't asking for a parade." She raised her glass. "This past year has been hard," she said. Dramatic pause. "But one person's been there through all of it. My rock. My guiding light." I felt my heart lift. Here it was. Then she said his name. Damon Clark. It landed like a punch to the ribs. Damon. Her co-worker. The guy she'd mentioned in passing, always with a laugh. The guy I'd seen comment a few too many emojis on her photos. The guy she swore was just a friend. And now, in front of 60 people, live streamed to hundreds more, she raised a glass to him. The applause was polite, confused even, but she didn't stop there. She turned toward me with a smirk. "And now, for my amazing husband," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "I got you something special." Laughter rippled. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Aw!" She handed me a sleek black gift bag. It was light, too light. I reached inside, pulled out something soft, unfolded it slowly. A t-shirt. Black, designer, still crisp from the fold. And in the center, bold white letters, divorced. For a second, the rooftop fell silent, like Chicago held its breath. Then the laughter came. Uneasy. Some guests chuckled. Some shifted on their feet. A woman near me whispered, "Oh my God." I stared at the shirt, at her. She grinned, like a child who'd pulled off the ultimate prank, like it was edgy, hilarious. My hands trembled, the kind of tremble that comes when your body wants to scream, but your soul is too stunned to catch up. 4 years of marriage, thousands of sacrifices, 1,000 quiet nights spent working overtime so she could chase her dreams. All reduced to this. I felt the eyes on me, friends, family, her followers on IG Live. I could have said something. I could have shouted, slammed the cake to the ground, tossed the shirt in her face. But I didn't. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the Cartier bracelet I'd saved for. Sleek, golden, understated. I'd imagined the way her eyes would light up when she saw it. I placed it on the table beside the cake. No words. Then I walked. Past the stunned guests, past the DJ, frozen mid-beat, past the valet stammering, "Sir, your ticket," as I pushed through the rooftop doors. The Chicago night hit me like a slap-cold, sudden reel. My tie loosened itself in the breeze, flapping like the last thread of something that used to hold me together. I walked. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew it was away. My phone buzzed once, then again. I looked down. Emily Carter. Missed call. Then again. And again. By the time I reached the parking garage, the number had climbed past 30. By the time I reached Lakeshore Drive, it hit 92. By the time I pulled into Theo's apartment lot in Evanston and slammed the car door shut behind me, it read 157 missed calls. I didn't answer a single one. The couch creaked beneath me as I sank into it, some old, worn-out relic in Theo's spare room that smelled faintly of old coffee and wet denim. I didn't ask to stay. I just showed up. He opened the door, took one look at me, handed me a cold beer, and said, "Stay as long as you need." No questions, no pity, just space. And I needed space more than I needed air. The room was small, a single window, looked out over a quiet suburban street in Evanston. Blinds, half-crooked, a lamp with a broken pull chain, a pile of old college textbooks stacked in the corner like forgotten years. I stared at the ceiling for hours that night, phone face down beside me, like it had betrayed me too. I didn't cry. I didn't sleep either. I just lay there in that cold, unfamiliar room with the echo of her laughter still playing on loop inside my head. That moment, her handing me that shirt, the word divorced in bold white letters, while 60 people held their breath and watched me be humiliated, it repeated itself over and over like a cruel glitch in the universe. When the sun finally clawed its way through the blinds, it hurt to look at it. I sat up. My suit jacket was crumpled on the floor like roadkill. My tie lay across the arm of the couch, twisted limp. I felt like both. I reached for my phone. 157 missed calls, all from her. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. Instead, I made coffee in Theo's tiny kitchen, burnt bitter, exactly what I deserved. I stood at the sink, cup in hand, and stared out the window like it held answers. All I saw was a mailbox leaning sideways and a squirrel digging in the grass like it owned the world. I hated how quiet it was. That day, I didn't go to work. I didn't call anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I just floated in sweatpants and numbness. Theo shuffled in around noon, bleary-eyed shirt, half-button. He handed me a second cup of coffee, plopped into a chair, and said, "You don't come back from something like that." I didn't argue, because he was right. It wasn't just the shirt. It wasn't just the party. It was every damn thing leading up to it that I had ignored because I loved her. Because I thought that's what love meant, sacrificing, compromising, erasing yourself in pieces until the person you loved finally noticed. But she never did. I remembered the job I turned down in Austin because she said Chicago was better for her brand. The promotions I passed on because she needed me home at 6. The weekends I spent editing her videos, tagging her content, answering her emails because I'm too overwhelmed, babe. I had been the scaffolding to her empire, the steady, invisible frame, holding up a glittering illusion, and she gave me a t-shirt. I opened my laptop later that night. Not for work, not to check email, but to write. I didn't know what I was writing, just that I had to get it out, or it would rot inside me. The first sentence hit the page like a confession: 157 missed calls. That's how long it took for me to realize I'd been asleep. I stared at it, sat with it, then wrote another line. And another. I didn't write for her. I wrote for the man I used to be, the one who stood in that suit with a smile plastered on his face while his wife handed him a punchline in front of the world. When I was done, I closed the laptop, turned off my phone, and went to bed. I slept finally. Not well, not peacefully, but it was sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, there was only one number I called. Not hers. Clara Mendoza. I found her name through a friend at work, divorce attorney, no nonsense gets things done. She picked up on the third ring. Clara speaking. I took a breath. I want out, I said. Clean. Quiet. Fast. There was a pause. Then she said, "You called the right person?" The first run almost killed me. It was barely 6 a.m. The sky was still bruised from the night before. Chicago's Lake Shore Trail was half swallowed by fog, the lake invisible beyond a curtain of gray. But I was there, hoodie damp, old, sneakers, flapping lungs, already burning by the second block. I didn't run to get fit. I ran to escape. From her voice, from that rooftop, from the echo of nervous laughter and the flash of white letters that spelled out divorcate like a verdict across my chest. Every footstep pounded it into the pavement. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't sit still anymore. By the time I made it back to Theo's apartment, my chest felt like it had been cracked open with a crowbar. I collapsed on the front steps, sweat stinging my eyes, gasping like a man who had forgotten how to breathe. But something in me had shifted. It wasn't victory. It wasn't even healing. It was movement. That night, I opened my laptop again. I reread the lines I had written. I added more about the silence, the coffee, the bracelet I left on the cake table, like a final offering. About the moment I decided that loving someone shouldn't mean disappearing for them. I didn't name her. I didn't even mention the t-shirt. I titled it, simply, 157 Missed Calls. I published it on a no-name blogging site. No email. No name. No expectations. I went to sleep. 3 days passed. On the 4th, I checked back. 73 comments. This is my life. Thank you for writing this. I didn't know anyone else had ever felt this way. I stared at the screen, stunned, like someone had flipped on a light in a room I didn't know I was trapped in. That same week, my boss, Gregory, pulled me aside. "You good?" he asked, glancing at me like I was a new species, because I've got a monster client who's a nightmare. And I need someone who doesn't flinch. I didn't flinch. I'll take it. He blinked, then grinned. There's the guy I remember. That night I ran again. Longer this time. Farther. The fog lifted a little more with each step, and the next morning I got a message. A name I barely remembered, Sasha Green. Some tech kid I'd met once at a networking event. "Hey," the message said. "I read your post. Me and my buddy are building something. It's messy, but I think it matters. You in?" I met him and Omar at a dingy diner in Lincoln Park. Sticky tables, stale fries. But their eyes were alive. They talked about their dream like it could save the world. A local delivery app for small businesses. Real people, real connections. They didn't need money. They needed structure. A guide, a grown-up. I didn't say yes right away, but I didn't say no. I started running every morning, writing every night. The blog grew thousands of views, messages from strangers, emails that started with, "I've never told anyone this." I read every single one, because I knew what it felt like to be voiceless. I rearranged Theo's spare room, turned one corner into a desk by the window, taped a vision board above it, nothing fancy. Just photos cut from magazines, a beach in Thailand, a skyline in New York, a house with a porch swing, words scribbled in Sharpie breathe. Build. Begin. That Friday, Clara handed me the final divorce papers. "She hasn't contested," she said, flipping the pages. No surprises. Good, I replied. My hand didn't shake when I signed. That night, I ran 6 miles. At the end of it, I didn't collapse. I stood by the lake's sweat-dripping chest, rising slow and even. The city lights danced on the water. I looked up at the sky and whispered, I'm still here. It happened on a Thursday. The rain hadn't stopped since noon. It came in thick sheets, angry, relentless hammering against the windows of my apartment, like it was trying to break in. I was tuning my guitar, something I hadn't touched in years, fingers still clumsy on the strings. The lamp cast a warm glow over the room, bouncing off the fresh white walls I'd painted myself. The place smelled of citrus wood polish and ink, exactly the way I wanted it to smell. Mine. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps, fast, insistent, the kind that know you're home. I froze. Some part of me already knew. I opened the door, slowly, and there she was. Emily. No umbrella, no coat, just a thin sweater plastered to her skin. Her hair was soaked, sticking to her face in long strands. Mascara bled down her cheeks. Her lips trembled like a child's. She looked smaller, like the rain had peeled everything off her makeup pride spotlight, until all that remained was the wreckage of someone who had nowhere else to go. Can I come in? She whispered. I didn't say anything. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, leaving a trail of water on the hardwood floor. She didn't sit, just stood there, arms wrapped around herself, shivering, looking everywhere but at me. I miss you, she finally said, voice cracking. We were good. I didn't move, didn't blink. The words hit me like echoes in an empty room. Once they might have cracked something open inside me. Now they just floated there hollow. No, I said. My voice was calm, cold. I was good. You were lucky. She flinched, a full body recoil. Then the tears came. Not pretty, not delicate, the kind that tore through her like thunder. Her shoulders shook, her hands covered her face. Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the couch like she was made of paper. I messed up, she sobbed. I know. The party. Damon. That stupid shirt. I thought. She choked on her words. I thought you'd laugh, that you'd get it. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I watched her fall apart in the same room she once decorated with throw pillows and candles and filters for Instagram. None of it was left. I'd thrown them out. What remained was real. I thought I could do it without you, she whispered, eyes swollen. The job, the podcast, the deals. But everything's gone. He's gone. I'm drowning Ryan. I need you. There it was. Need. Not love. Not partnership. Need. Because the lights went out. Because the audience turned their backs. Because Damon had vanished and no one was clapping anymore. I stepped closer. Not to hold her, but to speak, so she would hear me loud and clear. You didn't need me when you stood on that rooftop, I said. When you raised a glass to another man and handed me a t-shirt like I was a joke. Her face crumpled. I didn't mean it. You meant every second of it, I cut in. And now you want to rewind because you're scared. Not because you love me. Because you need the scaffolding back. But I burned it the night I walked out. The silence stretched. Long. Heavy. She nodded slowly, like she already knew the answer, but still needed to hear it. I'll go, she said. She stood, legs, trembling eyes, locked to the floor. I walked to the door and opened it. She stepped back into the storm, didn't look back, didn't say goodbye. The rain swallowed her silhouette until she was gone. I shut the door, locked it, and for the first time in a year, I stood still in the quiet and didn't feel empty. The stage lights were blinding. I stood backstage in Milan, heart thudding in my chest, not from nerves, but from something else, something quieter, deeper. Exactly 1 year ago, I had stood on another stage, rooftop, champagne tower, a crowd of 60, and her. Now I stood alone, microphone in hand, name printed in bold letters on the conference agenda, keynote speaker, rebuilding after betrayal. The crowd hushed as I stepped out. Hundreds of faces looking up, waiting. I took a breath, and I told them the truth. I once paid for a rooftop birthday party where I was handed a designer t-shirt that said, "Divorced." I began. A ripple of soft laughter passed through the room, but I didn't smile. 5 minutes later, I placed a Cartier bracelet on the table beside the cake and walked away from everything I thought defined me. Now they were listening, really listening. I told them about the missed calls, the 157 blinking reminders that someone only wanted me when I was gone. I told them about the first run, the pain, the cold, the silence, about the blog, the strangers who wrote back, about Sasha and Omar, 2 kids with a dream, and a diner table full of napkins. I told them how healing doesn't come like a movie climax. It comes quietly, in sweat, in silence, in 100 mornings, when you choose to lace up your shoes instead of answering a call. I didn't mention her name, didn't need to, because it was never about her. It was about me, and about everyone who had ever stood holding a metaphorical divorce shirt while the world watched and waited for them to fall apart. Betrayal, I said, is not the end of you. It's a door, and you get to choose crawl, collapse, or walk through it. The room was silent. Then came the applause, loud, long, roaring. But I didn't hear it as a reward. I heard it as echo. Afterwards, people lined up to speak with me, thank me, share their stories. You changed my life. Your blog got me through my divorce. I finally left after 10 years. I shook hands, smiled, meant every second of it. That night, I returned to my hotel, opened my laptop, and read the newest comments on the blog. One stood out. I read your story while sitting in my car outside the lawyer's office. I walked in. I signed the papers, and I walked out lighter. I sat there for a moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I smiled and typed back, one step at a time. You're already rebuilding. I poured myself a glass of water, walked to the window, and looked out over the Milan skyline. Lights twinkled like embers. The city pulsed alive, awake. I hadn't thought about her in weeks, but I thought about the man I used to be, the one who stood on that rooftop broken, humiliated, and the one I had become, rebuilt. I raised my glass to the window, to the man I chose to become, and whispered. One call answered, mine. Then I turned off the lights and slept, peacefully, fully, finally.